This video is sponsored by Ground News. The polls are crystal clear. Orban is losing, but
the whole system is built by Orban so that he can remain in power indefinitely.
16 years in power, a system built in his image.
Akkora győzelmet arattunk, hogy még a Holdról is látszik, de Brüsszelből egészen biztosan.
And a long-running clash with the European Union.
If somebody is isolated here, is the European Union as such. Hungary has good relations.
Putin is a friend of Orban. Trump is a friend of Orban. So they blame everything on Brussels, EU, and also on the poor Ukrainians.
Is Orban beatable? One man wants to prove otherwise.
We will always keep in mind from where we are coming and where we are going. And this is not Russia, this is not Asia, this is Europe.
We will get the answer this weekend, because honestly, this is Orban's system, and the election result is far from being decided. Now, the polls really do tell a very one-sided story. Viktor Orbán is going to lose, very convincingly. In this race, there's basically two main parties, Viktor Orbán's Fidesz and his new main competitor, Péter Magyar's Tisza party. And Tisza is currently polling at a staggering 49%, a massive 10-point lead over Fidesz at 39%. But the most convincing data comes from the partisan electoral barometer. It currently gives Tisza a 78.5% chance of winning the election. And it even gives them a 29% chance of winning a 2/3 majority. And that would be huge, as it would mean they could push through anything in the parliament, including constitutional changes, without needing a single Fidesz vote. But we really should not underestimate Orban here, because through my research, I've seen how incredibly stacked the odds are in favor for Orban. He has basically built a fortress around his power over the last 16 years. He has redrawn the electoral system in his favor. There are serious allegations of voter fraud and voter buying, and he completely controls the media landscape.
There's a disproportionately Fidesz favoring media environment in Hungary. They control about 90% of the media, including 100% of all television channels and almost 100% of all FM radio stations, almost 100% of all daily newspapers, and 70-80% of all billboard media, outdoor media surfaces.
Yeah, I mean, how insane is that? We actually have an Hungarian on the team, and he told us of how one-sided all of this really is. You can see massive long roads in Budapest, for example, where every single billboard is a Fidesz ad. And the government is not just advertising. They're running a campaign of intense fear, especially around the war in Ukraine. To give you an idea of the level of fear-mongering, look at this recent campaign video.
Anya, mikor jön haza apa? De most hol van? Mikor láthatom újra?
Nem sokára.
Ne hagyjuk, hogy mások döntsenek a családunk sorsáról. 2026. április 12-e. A háború mindenkitől csak elvesz. Ne kockáztassunk. A Fidesz a biztos választás.
Now, I mean, morally, this is just so wrong. The soldiers in this video literally look like Nazis. This really isn't a political ad. It's high-level fear-mongering, and it feels like psychological warfare against its own people, designed to make voters believe that if Fidesz loses, their husbands and children are going to war, and that is such massive misinformation. And this is not a new tactic. Orban has become a master at weaponizing world events to stay in power. In 2014, it was foreign-funded NGOs. In 2018, it was the migrant crisis. In 2022, it was the start of the war in Ukraine and gender issues. And now, in 2026, it is the war all over again, but now with even more aggressive propaganda. Just have a look at these ads. They claim the opposition will increase taxes to pay for Ukrainian gold toilets. And this one showing a fake EU credit card to suggest Hungarian money is being sent to Kiev, even though Hungary isn't even financing the latest EU loans. They're even using AI, for example right here, to show how the opposition leader, Péter Magyar, as a dog on a leash held by the EU. Or the one right here, AI-created footage of rallies to make it look like people are leaving the opposition in droves. And yeah, there's even more drastic fake news like this right here, suggesting that the EU and Orban's opposition basically want war.
We want war. Slava Ukraini.
Now, to many of us, all of these ads don't really mean much. I mean, I honestly kind of laugh at them, as many are so obviously fake or blatantly silly. But in rural villages where state-run TV is literally the only source of news, they are terrifyingly effective.
In 2022, 59% of the population thought that not only Orban is the more credible candidate to keep Hungary out of the war, but who also thought that this is the primary question in the elections. 59%. This number is now 42%. It doesn't mean that 42% will vote for Orban, but 42% still believes that if the question comes down to war or peace, then Orban is the better candidate compared to Péter Magyar now.
I mean, wow, that is really still a huge number. And it really shows that Orban has succeeded in making the war one of the most important issues in the voter's mind. So now we've talked about Orban's first two big advantages. He has total control of the media and he's running a campaign based on fear. But those are just the first two advantages of a total of 6 that we identified. But another story is now making the headlines, just days before the election, could also shape the final results. Explosives were reportedly found near the Serbia-Hungary gas pipeline. Energy that Hungary really needs. The incident has also triggered a geopolitical storm almost immediately. Allegations are flying from the left, from the center, and from the right. And once again, the media landscape is so deeply divided. Right-leaning outlet Breitbart highlights Orban's claim that Ukraine could be behind the attack. Meanwhile, news.de, which leans left, raises a very different possibility, asking whether the incident could have been staged to influence the upcoming election. And outlets like the Irish Independent explore yet another angle, whether this could be a Russian false flag operation. I mean, this is the same event, but with completely different interpretations. And this difference in framing, not from politicians, but from the media, is exactly why I like ground news. Because ground news lets you compare how the very same story is covered across the entire political spectrum, helping you avoid being stuck in just one narrative. You can instantly see how many outlets are reporting on a story and how coverage is distributed across the left, center, and right. And in this case, the split is actually kind of fairly balanced. But for many stories, coverage comes almost entirely from just one side of the spectrum. The Ground News app and website include a whole range of tools designed to help you understand the news environment more clearly and spot potential biases. So, if you'd like to try it yourself, you can get 40% off unlimited access to the Vantage plan using the link in the description or by scanning the QR code on the screen right now. Back to the video. So, we have now talked about 2 advantages so far. But to really understand our next few points, we really need to look at how the Hungarian elections actually work. Hungary uses a mixed electoral system, meaning voters cast 2 separate votes. The first vote is for a candidate in your local constituency. You see, Hungary is divided into 106 constituencies, each electing 1 member of parliament. That means 106 out of the 199 seats in the Hungarian parliament are filled this way. The second vote is for a party list at the national level. So instead of voting for an individual candidate, voters choose a political party, such as Fidesz or Tisza. These votes are distributed proportionally, meaning parties receive seats roughly in line with the share of their national vote. And this part fills the remaining 93 seats in parliament. So far, so good, right? It seems like a reasonable balanced system. And for a long time, it kinda was. But that really did change in 2012, when Orban used his first supermajority to fundamentally rewrite the rules of the game. Since 2012, Orban and Fidesz have been aggressively redrawing constituency boundaries. And this really matters, like quite a lot. Especially for the first vote Hungarians cast, the one where the winner of each district directly gains a seat in the parliament. And to see why this is so important, let's take a look at an electoral map of Hungary. These right here are the results of the 2022 election. And as you can see, Fidesz really dominated most of the country. Only very few patches of green remain where the opposition managed to win. And one of those areas, of course, is Budapest, the capital, which stands out as an island of the opposition. Out of its total of 18 constituencies, all but just one voted for the opposition. But in a recent amendment for the 2026 elections, the government redrew the map, and 2 constituencies were deleted entirely, scrapped. And that obviously benefits Fidesz, as that likely means 2 fewer opposition members of parliament. Meanwhile, if we zoom out just a little, the district surrounding Budapest, called Pest County, tells a different story. In 2022, it had 12 constituencies, and it voted completely for Fidesz in the last election. But for the 2026 elections, 2 new constituencies were added. Kinda looks suspicious, right? The Fidesz government claims it was a legal necessity though, as the official rule in Hungary states that every district should have a roughly equal number of people. But according to an analysis by Electoral Geography, removing just 1 constituency in the capital would have been more than enough to fix the population imbalance. And then there's also the other side of the coin, because in some counties, Somogy and Tolna for example, the very opposite happened. Far fewer people live there than the national average, meaning a vote in these counties is technically worth more than a vote in Budapest. Yet the government chose not to touch those boundaries. Critics and analysts argue that this specific redrawing is a prime example of gerrymandering, manipulating boundaries to systematically reduce the influence of opposition voters. So yeah, yet another advantage for Orban. But it doesn't stop there either. Let's look at Hungary's voting system once more, because there's yet another important nuance. In most countries with a mixed system like Hungary's, the second vote is purely proportional. You know, all party list votes are counted, and the seats are distributed according to each party's national share. But in Hungary, this works a little bit differently. Here, the first vote actually affects the second vote. Let's look at a map again to really show you what this means. Here again, you have the 2022 election, and we'll look at District 3 in the Győr-Moson-Sopron area. And yeah, I know I pronounced that completely wrong. In the first vote here, Fidesz won decisively with 71% of the vote, followed by the opposition alliance, United for Hungary, with 22%. And as a result, the Fidesz candidate automatically secured a seat in parliament. Congratulations. Before Orban came to power, the rule was very simple here. All the losing votes in a constituency were added to that party's national list. This meant the thousands of people who voted for the runner-up didn't have their votes wasted. Those votes moved to the national pile to help their party win proportional seats. But again here, in 2012, Fidesz added another layer, something called winner compensation. This means that the difference in votes between the winner and the runner-up is also added to the winner's national list. And in our example, because the Fidesz candidate didn't just win, but won by a massive landslide, they earned tens of thousands of extra surplus votes that were funneled directly into their national party list. And as you can really see, this is hugely beneficial for the largest party. It's like a winner's bonus. And since Fidesz won 88 out of 106 constituencies in 2022, you can see how this system supercharges a victory. This is exactly how Orban's coalition in 2022 turned a 54% of the popular vote into 135 seats, a 68% supermajority. And yeah, this is the holy grail of Hungarian politics, because with 135 seats, Fidesz has the power to change the constitution itself without a single vote needed from the opposition. Now, all of these changes to the system are legal. They are basically possible because Orban holds such a large majority and can simply vote them into law. But, crucially, beyond the law, there's also widespread accusations of something much more sinister and direct: vote buying. Independent journalists in Hungary produced an exceptionally revealing documentary called The Price of a Vote, alleging systematic pressure on voters in very rural communities in Hungary. And it's not just about handing out cash either. Sometimes it's as simple as food. One former organizer described the scene.
A tyúkokat, az élelmiszereket választások előtti éjszaka volt, hogy hajnal 3 óráig olyan büdös voltam már tyúkoktól, hogy egyszerűen elképesztő. Jó magam is segítettem a krumpliosztásban, 5 kiló volt per szavazófő. Most ugyanez van, csak nem krumpliban, hanem szavazatonként megy egy 10 000 forintos.
De ez igaz, és felszorozzuk ezt az emberek számát, a választókerületek számát, a hetek meg a hónapok számát, akkor gyakorlatilag december végére ott tartottunk, hogy ez egy magas részvétel esetén is 6-7%, ami akár döntő jelentőségű lehet.
6-7%. Let that sink in for a minute, because those numbers alone can literally close the gap between Fidesz and Tisza. And it's not just about buying votes with cash or chickens either. There's also voter intimidation going on.
Polgármesterek ugye azt mondják a romáknak, hogy jó, ha nem szavaztok a Fideszre, akkor nem lesz közmunka, nem lesz semmi, sőt, azokat a családokat teljes egészében kicsinálják a településen.
Ez mit jelent?
Az adott önkormányzattal együttvéve megmondtuk a villanytámogatás, vagy tűzifa támogatást.
To be very fair here though, the documentary notes that historically, multiple sides have been accused of these tactics. But because Fidesz has been in power for 16 years with the full financial might of the state behind them, they're the ones who have turned this into a science and a potential election winner. So here you've got it, the 6 main reasons why Orban has such an unfair advantage in Hungary. But honestly, there's even more to it. First, there's money. Orban has a massive war chest for election presence. Just weeks before the vote, he doubled tax benefits for families and gave mothers of 2 or more children a lifetime tax exemption. And yeah, there's also massive international backup. Orban is getting huge support from the US, with Vice President J.D. Vance actually in Budapest right now, at least at the time of the recording, to back Orban's regime just days before the polls open. And of course, then there's Russia. Putin has a massive stake in an Orban win, and Russian misinformation is already flooding the country, painting the opposition as Western puppets, trying to start a nuclear war. I mean, seriously, Putin, you're the one that invaded Ukraine, and you're the one making the threats with nuclear weapons. So these are just such silly arguments. Anyway though, when you look at these polls that show a 10-point lead for Tisza, remember that even with these numbers, an Orban miracle would not really be a surprise because this system is literally made to make him win. Anyway, this is what I think. Orban really has to go, and this channel has shown in at least 10 videos the damage that he has done to both the European Union and Hungary. I mean, the European project has literally come to a standstill because of him. From blocking aid to Ukraine and stalling critical climate and rule of law reforms, Orban has been the major roadblock. And then there's also Hungary itself. The country is just sliding backwards further and further. Just look at this. The rule of law is at a historic low, lower than any other EU country. And regular people haven't exactly gotten better off either, while Orban's inner circle has become some of the richest people in the region. So, to any Hungarians watching this video, go to the polls this weekend. But, more importantly, get your family to go, especially if they live in rural regions. I mean, just talk to your grandmother, your grandfather, your neighbors, your friends, anyone really. Because in a system this rigged, a normal win is simply not enough. We need a landslide for Tisza just to stand a chance at real change. And we at EU Made Simple will be on the ground in Budapest during the election. And we truly hope that on April the 12th, we'll be celebrating a new chapter for Hungary rather than witnessing another 4 years of standstill. I really want Hungary to be a thriving part of the EU. They belong in the EU. But that simply is not possible with Orban at the top. I mean, there's even corruption, which we haven't even covered in this video, of all that EU money that Orban has taken and pretty much given to his friends, with stories of highways being 4 times as expensive as the same highway in Croatia. Anyway, going off track a little bit here. But what I want to say is that if he does win again, with these tactics or otherwise, the EU has to finally take some real action. We cannot afford 4 more years of this, and we made an entire video right here about exactly what the EU should do, linked above. I just hope that this video, though, becomes super irrelevant by next week. Thank you so much for watching, and if you want to dig deeper into media bias and understand how stories are being framed, check out our sponsor, Ground News. You can get the unlimited Access Vantage plan with 40% off by using the link in the description or scanning the QR code on the screen. And thank you so much to all of our presidents. See you all in the next video. For example, the one on the screen right now, where we look at what the EU can do if Orban wins again.